Servus, Männer, it's Red Pill Germany again. Why don't you join me on this last day of the year in 2022 and look back on what has happened this year from my perspective, of course, what has happened on my channel, and what do I think will happen next year. So in other words, I want to do a little review about the year 2022 and go over the different events that we had in this year. Of course, as always, from a German perspective, as you are used to it on my channel here. So in the very beginning of the year, the big topic was, of course, still the China bug. We were nicely locked down and everyone had to wear their masks, and people were harassed and nudged and bullied to get the product. Our so-called basic law that many people refer to as the German Constitution was no longer really followed. Our protections and our liberties, our rights in Germany that we have according to this so-called constitution were not really there anymore. And of course, I asked the question whether or not these rights and liberties had been there to begin with at all. Or was it just now that we noticed that they were never there to begin with? The borders were of course still open at all this time, and as we see right now towards the end of the year, we already surpassed, at least these are the numbers from Austria, I know we already surpassed 2015 in terms of irregular travelers, and I think the same is true for Germany. And of course, we still had to pay for our own indoctrination via the so-called public broadcasting, the state media here in Germany, so everything was fine and dandy, and then the vodka nation attacked. So after many years of fighting in the eastern provinces of Ukraine that nobody was bothered by in the West, because the fighting was mostly done from the central regime in Kiev against the people in these eastern provinces that are, to a large degree, ethnically, culturally, linguistically Russians. The Russians finally decided to get involved. Now, this is not really new. They did that with Georgia also, I think. So these regional border conflicts in Eastern Europe are not really new. Also, as I pointed out at the time, NATO has decided in the 90s, for example, to get involved in Southeast Europe on the Balkan. So now it is the other way around pretty much. Whereas Russia back then didn't do much, now the West, or the US and Europe or NATO, they decided to really get involved into this conflict. And I think we are at a point right now where NATO is directly fighting Russians in Ukraine. Yeah, all the soldiers might be Ukrainians, but everything else comes from NATO. The equipment, the logistics, the intelligence, and so on and so forth. As I described in great detail in my videos, many equipment parts, many vehicles from Germany are going to Ukraine, and also the training is carried out in Germany. Now, the only thing that's missing is that German soldiers actually fight themselves in these vehicles. But since they're all pregnant or transitioning right now, so they're really busy with surgery and hormone treatments and like that, you probably don't want German soldiers in these vehicles at all. Ukrainians are doing the job just fine. So as a consequence, a lot of Ukrainian mothers with their children came to Germany, and these children are going to German schools now, etc. And I think, as I said in recent videos, the elites here in Germany, the globalists, I think they like that. They want them to stay here. That would serve their plans and directly affect their bottom line in a positive way. And I personally believe that the fact that the personal bottom line is affected directly is also the reason why the West has decided to get active here. I think it's a big motivator, at least, when the sons and daughters of many prominent US Democrat Party officials are serving as board members in these pretend Ukrainian companies, energy sector, for example. And I think this is a big motivator for us in the West to be involved here. Now, of course, this is not the only reason, of course. I think there is a greater scheme to depopulate the area, and we will see in the future what comes of this, but also in the short term it's very, very useful for our elites here, because now that the big health scare that was still once again the big topic in the beginning of the year, a lot of people have asked that there should be a reckoning, that there should be something that we in Germany call Vergangenheitsbewältigung, coming to terms with your past. And that would mean that we reassess all these measures and find out how effective they were, if they caused more harm than good, and also all the shady business that has been happening with the product and with the mask and the involvement of our politicians and the major corruption, that there should be some sort of justice being served here. But that didn't happen, of course, because now the conflict in Eastern Europe is, of course, on the top of the agenda, and everything that was before is forgotten. While at the same time, make no mistake, all these rules in Germany and all these restrictions are still in place. People still have to wear masks when they go to a doctor's clinic or to a hospital, to a retirement nursery home, what have you. They still have to wear them in public transport. They're still bullied at work and also otherwise to get the product. And now they're already talking about implementing all these rules also for any kind of other disease, such as the normal flu. The media is, of course, running interference all the time, creating a matrix, a simulated democracy, a parallel universe. And as long as the people, especially older folks like boomers, as long as they watch TV and get all their information from there, they really facilitated this process of changing the subject with this new border conflict in the east, and avoiding the critical reassessment of all these health measures, while at the same time keeping all the measures in place, and they're just waiting for the next completely coincidental and completely naturally occurring disease to bring all these things back and to make it even worse, to double down on all these things. I think the next such event is already in the making, maybe 2025, I don't know, I'm not a prophet, but I think the next thing is about to happen in a couple of years. Let's see, we had armed conflict now, we had a disease, maybe some kind of financial crash is next, I don't know, or they will bring about something new in their playbook, I have no idea, but I think some kind of financial crash could be the next thing, something like we had with the bailout of Greece or the Lehman Brothers, something like that. And then maybe after that comes the next disease, and then comes the next armed conflict, probably. Let me know in the comments down below what you think will be the next thing to divert the attention of the people away from the issues that the elites don't want to be on the agenda, because some uncomfortable truths came to light, or things didn't happen like the elites said they would happen, and then people demand some sort of correction, of course. And this is when they just change the topic by hitting us with the next crisis. So this is where we are right now, and in addition to a health-related lockdown, they have now energy-related lockdowns that they want to implement. Obviously, they haven't done that legally yet, but of course, it always starts with them asking nicely or appealing to our conscience and stuff like that. But then, of course, a couple of months later, they will bring about regulations and even legislations. And in the context of Germany and many other states right now that are affected by this homegrown or self-made energy scarcity, that will be not using warm water, not heating your home, and then they will have brownouts when they switch off the grid or take certain areas off the grid for a certain time. Just like in third world countries, we will have certain times of the day when there is no power. So I think in 2022 you could nicely see the trajectory that we are on, and that everything goes according to plan. You know what the destination is. You will own nothing and you will be happy. Whereas the second part of the sentence is, well, I don't know. The first part, yes, we will own nothing. They will take everything away from us that we own, but will we truly be happy? I pretty much doubt it. So while the global elites are using more resources than ever before, private jets, big mansions, what have you, they own all the land, the normal average people, and I'm not just referring to unemployed people here, also workers, even scientists, engineers, everybody pretty much who is a normie, we should live in tiny pod apartments. We should not have access to heating or to cooking any food. Personal transport will be eliminated, of course. There will just be public transport. And then we have to ask the government for a permission slip to please go in 3 months from Munich to Hamburg. Or maybe from Nuremberg to Erlangen or to the next village. What do I know? But of course, there are several people from many walks of life who have a problem with that or who have understood one part or the other about the big picture. But at least in the case of Germany, I don't think that this will go anywhere. I'm very black-pilled when it comes to Germany. I have to be honest here. Maybe in other countries, something can come out of this, something positive out of a so-called resistance movement or an oppositional movement. But here in Germany, there are so many false flag operations, and the secret police has really infiltrated all these groups. So many of the more prominent or crass members of these oppositional groups who call for drastic action and stuff, they are, in my opinion at least, directly handled by the secret police, or they are outright secret police members. And this is what they've been doing in Eastern Germany, for example. That was a standard technique to deal with oppositional forces in every generation. They infiltrated them. They did things that looked bad, and then the press and the public was all over this, and this is how the oppositional forces, the resisting forces, were kept down. Of course, in the US, that stuff happens too, but the US is a little more diverse. So I think in Florida, at least when it comes to the health scare, they want to reassess and critically assess what has been going on, and also serve some justice maybe. I don't know. We will see. So this was my little review, just some topics, of course, not everything, about what happened in 2022, where we started and where we are at now. And let me know how it was in your country, how you see the thing, what I missed, and also let me know what you think will happen in the beginning or the course of the next year, 2023. And I hope that you will tune in again next year. Happy New Year. Servus, Kameraden.